You can build 38,000 stores and still have nowhere for people to sit. You can sell coffee to the entire planet and slowly remove the reason anyone wanted to drink it with you. You can call yourself a third place while designing stores where nobody is meant to stay. And if you want to understand how a 36 billion empire walked into that contradiction, you have to understand this first. Starbucks did not decline because of competition. Starbucks declined because it solved the wrong problem perfectly. It became unbelievably good at speed in a business that was loved for slowness. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Because this is not a business story. This is a psychological story about what happens when optimization deletes meaning. In 2024, Starbucks fired its CEO after just 17 months, hired the CEO of Chipotle, let him commute by private jet. The stock jumped 24% in a single day, not because Starbucks had a plan, but because investors were relieved that anything was changing. That's how you know a company is lost, when movement feels like progress. But Starbucks wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, Starbucks did something no coffee company had ever done. It convinced millions of people to pay 5 times the price of coffee for something that had nothing to do with coffee. Howard Schultz did not import espresso from Italy. He imported a feeling. In 1983, he saw cafes in Milan where people weren't rushing. They were sitting, talking, and existing. There was no pressure to leave, no expectation to buy quickly and go. It was a place between home and work. He called it the third place. And this idea was so powerful, it turned a 30-cent beverage into a $5 ritual. Because Starbucks wasn't selling caffeine, they were selling permission to pause. That's why the chairs were soft, the lighting was warm, and the music was calm. The margins weren't coming from coffee, they were coming from emotion. And emotion scales beautifully until someone tries to optimize it. From 6 stores in 1987 to 15,000 by 2007, Starbucks became one of the greatest wealth creation stories of the modern era. But here's what hypergrowth always does to a company. It introduces a new type of person into the room, the optimizer, the spreadsheet thinker, the one who asks a question that sounds intelligent and quietly kills magic. How do we make this faster? That question is lethal in a business built on lingering, and Starbucks answered it enthusiastically. 2008 financial crisis. Schultz returns as CEO, saves the company, and accidentally plants the seed of its future identity crisis. 2 strategic moves, both brilliant, both profitable, both catastrophic. Mobile ordering, drive-thrus everywhere. Because if customers don't have time to sit, we'll bring Starbucks to their car. If customers don't want to wait, we'll let them order before they arrive. If customers don't want friction, we'll remove friction. And just like that, Starbucks began removing the exact thing people came for. Friction, the waiting, the sitting, the existing. By 2022, over 70% of all Starbucks orders involved mobile or drive-thru. You know what you cannot do in a drive-thru? Be in a third place. You know what you cannot do while staring at an app notification? Feel atmosphere. Starbucks had turned a cafe into a caffeine logistics network, and they didn't even notice. The stores started changing. Soft chairs gone, metal stools, bathrooms closed, urban cafes shut down, new locations built with no seating at all, just a window, order, pick up, leave. This wasn't evolution, this was erasure. Customers felt it before executives did, because customers don't analyze brands, they feel them. And Starbucks no longer felt like somewhere to be, it felt like somewhere to pass through.
Then Starbucks made a second mistake. They confused being a brand with being a voice. They entered politics, social issues, culture debates. They started talking loudly in a place people came for quiet.
And then 2018 happened. 2 men arrested in a Philadelphia Starbucks for sitting without ordering. The backlash was immediate. Starbucks responded with compassion. Anyone can sit, no purchase required. Sounds humane. Destroyed the stores. Because a third place only works when people feel safe staying there. Time spent in stores drops. Locations near shelters become unmanageable. Needle disposal boxes installed. Blue lights in bathrooms. Stores closing across cities. Starbucks had accidentally made itself the center of America's homelessness and mental health crisis. Because they forgot a subtle rule. A third place must be welcoming, but also protected. They removed the boundaries and the atmosphere collapsed. Certainly, maintaining that mid-pacing and suspense. Meanwhile, something else was breaking the experience from inside. The app. 170,000 drink combinations, remote orders flooding stores, customers inside waiting behind invisible customers who hadn't arrived yet, 15 to 30-minute waits for coffee, baristas overwhelmed, customers irritated, nobody sitting, nobody talking, nobody enjoying, just standing, waiting, leaving. The cafe had turned into a pickup warehouse. The third place had turned into a queue. And humans hate queues, especially in places meant for comfort. Then China started collapsing for them. Luckin Coffee, cheaper, faster, gamified. Starbucks premium positioning made no sense in a market obsessed with speed and price. Market share falls. Eventually Starbucks sells most of its China business. At the same time, over 500 US stores unionize. Baristas striking. Executives fighting publicly. Founders criticizing from the outside. 6 straight quarters of same-store sales decline. And then the final signal. The board hires a CEO from Chipotle, a fast food expert. Because Starbucks no longer knows how to be a cafe. They only know how to be efficient. And this is the twist. Starbucks didn't decline because they failed at growth. They declined because they became too good at it, too optimized, too efficient for a business that was built on slowness. The new CEO's first moves? Bring back ceramic mugs, simplify the menu, slow things down. Trying to restore something that can't be tracked in dashboards, atmosphere. And this is where the story stops being about Starbucks. Because this is what happens to people too. You optimize your life, remove pauses, remove conversations, remove stillness. You become productive, efficient, successful. And one day you realize you have nowhere left to sit in your own life. Starbucks is a mirror of what happens when optimization goes too far, when systems replace feelings, when speed replaces presence, when scale replaces soul. They forgot they were never in the coffee business. They were in the human space business, and you cannot scale humanity with an app. That's why I brought my own coffee. Not because Starbucks coffee is bad, but because Starbucks no longer tastes like what it used to feel like. And that is the real fall. Not financial, psychological. They didn't lose customers. They lost the reason customers came. And that is much harder to rebuild.